Phoenix Down Radio is on the air.
Welcome, everybody, to Phoenix Down Radio, episode 198. I'm your host, Klaus Nightbringer, and joining me, as always, is my partner, Seyrr Timono. Seyrr, how are you doing today?
Not bad. I spent literally hours building pretty bridges for an imaginary factory in a game. They look so good.
Okay,
I'm using
Seyrr.
I'm using a Roman aqua viaduct style.
So it's like the raised, and they got the arch stone.
I'll take you a picture later. Yeah, but yes.
Yeah, check out the Discord if you guys want to see what that looks like. I know it's been a hot minute since we've been on. Apologies. I had some back issues 2 weeks ago, so that wasn't fun.
Klaus, we old.
Yeah, we old. Things are getting better, but it's still been a rough, couple of weeks even since then. Been doing what I can to, take better care of it, do on a few walks, things like that. I don't know. It's just been a kind of a crazy, busy, insane time. Bummed I missed out on Anime Detour this year because I figured, well, I was out of work for 3 days and I would have been completely out of vacation time. So it's like, well, maybe and probably wouldn't be a good idea to be wandering around for, 3 days in a convention. Probably not the greatest thing to do with a sore back.
No, not so much.
So had to cancel out on that, but yeah, it's all right. We got to hang out at the house. Took care of Aini. What else?
Such a good pupper.
He's a good boy. He's upstairs hanging out with my girlfriend. She's not feeling great tonight. So, hon, when you listen to this, I hope you're feeling better. Yeah. What have you been up to in the last month? Otherwise,
lots of the usual library stuff. We just actually had our first session of our anime club yesterday.
Ooh.
Yeah. 7 people showed up in total. No one stayed for every episode, but laid back camp seemed to actually be reasonably popular.
And what do they think of One Piece?
Why does everyone keep suggesting that?
Because the joke, it's over 1,000 episodes.
Yeah, it would be a logistical nightmare. If I did nothing but One Piece showings, it would book us for the next 11 years of programming.
Like I told you last time, Seyrr, job security.
I mean, yes, but not like that.
I mean, there are people who would really enjoy watching it, though, I'm sure.
Oh, I'm sure, but
I mean, there's a reason why they made a live action adaptation of it as well. So,
and the live action adaptation is damn fine.
That's what I've heard.
I haven't actually read much or watched much of One Piece, but we watched it with a friend who did, and they were explaining all the things about it. And it absolutely is something where they really put a lot of effort into it, and it's like a pure labor of love.
Awesome.
I mean, it's like a really good production quality and all that, but also the actors and the staff on it clearly care about doing a good job.
They're doing their best to maintain it, keep it as true to the original format, in the manga as it was. So, as best as you can do. It's the best you can do when you're talking about live action stuff. But
I mean, it seems like there's some stuff where they actually are considering what will land better in a live action adaptation and adjusting it accordingly.
I guess that makes sense too. So
while still remaining true to the spirit and feel of things. Again, some of this is taken from my friend who reads it, as I have not yet, but it's kind of gotten me to the point where I'm considering it.
Yeah, welcome to Anime on Phoenix Down Radio. Just kidding. I mean, like I said,
dude, I spent how long drawing up a schedule for the library program? I will do that if you try to sidetrack me.
I mean, it's. I should get back into watching anime again. It's just there's so much else going on right now. I hardly have enough time, play video games. Though I did try to play a little bit while I was, convalescing. So I've gotten quite a bit further in Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, and I'm really enjoying it. I got past the gold saucer, so I can do chocobo racing now.
Excellent.
And it's kind of fun. it has some elements to like Mario Kart and a little bit of draw some inspiration from Chocobo GP, which is just recently got rid of the battle pass, and a lot of the microtransaction things I think are gone from that. I don't know if they completely I remember they completely closed down the game, or if you can still play it, but some of the functionality is gone in it. But it's nice to have something to do. And damn, I've discovered Queen's Blood is a very intricate game.
That's what I've heard about it, that there's a lot of surprising depth to
You
it.
need to get into this game, Seyrr, so you can start min-maxing and creating spreadsheets on which cards you should play during which segments of the game, and yada yada yada.
Oh, spreadsheets. I do love the spreadsheets.
But yeah, that's what I've kind of been up to. And I should mention also as a show note, programming note, we kind of had a talk last night, and we're going to go ahead and keep the show on at the 9:30 p.m. Eastern, 6:30 p.m. Pacific time frame moving forward, kind of back to the old time, while Sarah's kind of dealing with work schedules, so as to not have to confuse and go back and forth. We're just going back to the later time.
Yeah. I originally thought I was going to have a consistent schedule, but I got moved to a different branch where it alternates between months. So
yeah, so for everybody's sanity, we're just gonna go ahead and move the time back to 9:30 Eastern, 6:30 Pacific. Also, remember there will be no show on May 4th. As Seyrr is going to be off on a budget wine country vacation, and I will be at a New World Final Fantasy with Nick Nar and my girlfriend. So that'll be a good night.
Honestly, I'm mostly there for the cheese making and the like, but I'm going with friends.
You're going to drink lots of wine.
Ish. I'm not so much a wine person. I am more of a charcuterie person.
Well, charcuterie is also good, but it pairs well with wine. So
yes, that is the main context in which I have wine, honestly.
All right. So as always, thank you so much to our Patreon producers, Nick Nar, Aurori, and Mika. You guys help to keep things going with us, and we do appreciate your support. Let's jump into that gaming community news. We actually have quite a few little stories here. I mean, with Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, being released a little over a month ago now, it's still making a lot of news with everything that's going on with it, including there was a recent interview, or it was a kind of a discussion discussed on the Square Enix music channel, where Tetsuya Nomura, scenario writer Kazushige Nojima, and composer Nobuo Uematsu sat down and discussed the game, where they said that Final Fantasy VII Remake Part 3 is off to the races. This article comes to us thanks to GamesRadar.com. It was written by Hope Bellingham. Let me copy and paste that for everybody here. Nope, that's not what I wanted. I just said copy. Why is it always got to be more difficult than it needs to be? There we go.
Spite. A friend of mine has suggested that the reason for literally anything you ask about is spite.
Spite. Well,
we're not sure that he's wrong.
I mean, at least it's not Sprite.
No, that would be a terrible reason. Spite at least makes sense.
Yes, because with Sprite, you're supposed to obey your thirst. Anyway, on April 1st, funnily of all days, Final Fantasy VII Remake developers, the creative director Tetsuya Nomura, scenario writer Kazushige Nojima, and composer Nobuo Uematsu sat down and talked about what kind of went into creating the remake series. And during the talk, Uematsu turns to Nomura and says, "It has to be mentally taxing trying to recreate something you put to bed decades ago with the latest technology and a whole new generation." To which the director responded, "Years ago, during the planning phase, I knew the kind of commitment a project like this would require. Part of me didn't want to do it. I could already see how much work this was going to be. And once you got started, there was no throwing in the towel halfway through," Nomura admits. "You can't leave things on a cliffhanger. You're stuck now. It's a massive undertaking. From the moment production started, I wanted it to end. At least now we're finally past the midway point. Unsurprisingly, considering the scale of each Final Fantasy VII Remake game, Nomura is eager to wrap up Cloud and Sephiroth's reimagined journey. And with
the sheer amount of his life that he's devoted to telling and retelling this one story, I had not considered just how much.
And realistically, the 7 universe has expanded quite a bit. I mean, we had Advent Children, we had Dirge of Cerberus, we had Crisis Core, all these different stories that are taking place. We had the first Soldier, the little mobile game that kind of came and went.
Yeah, no, there's been a lot.
I mean, it's expanded. We got a little bit of pre stuff, and realistically, within Rebirth, we're learning a lot about the world pre Shinra, which is kind of nice to see. There's a lot of lore to explore on this, and they spared no expense in the time to write those pieces, and it's really nice to see. They've really fleshed out the world.
But yeah, I can see, given all that, having that, like, one person that much of their life devoted to it, it's kind of fascinating that even knowing it would be that much, that he went ahead and took it on anyways. But I can understand why there might be this part of him that's like, can I be done and work on other things now?
I mean, could you imagine if they put this much effort into 8 as well?
Oh, find the person who wants to do it.
Well, I mean, wasn't Nomura the director at the time? Wasn't Nomura the director of 8 as well?
I think so.
Yeah, I think he was 7 and 8. And I want to say Katase came back on 9.
Originally monster designer for 5. Did some character design for 6.
Creative director for 7, and I want to say 8. Creative
producer, character designer, some of the Kingdom Hearts games, of course.
Yep.
Huh. He was involved with Hume and Elvon character design in FF11. I did not know that.
That's quite interesting. When you get into what all these guys are working on over at Square Enix in the Final Fantasy world.
A lot of them have done like little tiny things and other stuff as well.
Because I mean, it's a team effort, and there are certain pieces that that they're really strong on, and if, like I said, it involved the characters from the other games, I mean, it does make sense at that point. You're gonna work a little bit on there, like when he brought in Squall and was it actually Selfie? Cloud, or was it Leon?
And so it was called Leon, but it was effectively Squall.
Yeah.
And Cloud was in there too.
Yeah.
Along with Selfie was in there in like a child form in the first one. Like, there's lots of little references there for which it makes sense that they'd, if nothing else, for at least some consulting.
Yeah. But I mean, that makes them busy there. But so I can understand, wanting to work on something else as well. But, you also work on the things that you're passionate about, which is really cool. You got people like Uematsu that's still going with it, but he recently announced that he's kind of going to be stepping back and is probably not going to do another full Final Fantasy game again. But that doesn't mean he's done. In this same interview, Nomura and Uematsu were talking, and I'm going to copy and paste this link in. This is an article about the same interview, but this comes from IGN.com, written by Isaiah Colbert. And in this interview, it says that, basically Nomura turns to Uematsu at some point in that interview and asked if he would return to the yet to be titled third game and do the main theme for that one. To which Uematsu said, "It would be my honor. Really, I'm honored you're even extending that offer." Now, this is not an official confirmation that Uematsu will be working on it, but he would like to, and he probably will.
Yeah. I mean, like, there's a difference between, hey, you're doing like a feature track or some piece for it and doing an entire game.
Yep. And like I was alluding to a little bit earlier, prior to the video's release, Uematsu told the German publication Zeit Online that while he'll still be involved with writing the main themes for Final Fantasy games, he likely won't work on the full composition for a video game again. Uematsu revealed he felt a sense of finality while composing No Promises to Keep. When he listened to a copy of the song at home, he felt satisfied with what he'd made, saying, "It's pretty darn good." Likewise, Uematsu admitted that working on Rebirth's theme song also led him to the realization that someone in his age range can't keep up with the Final Fantasy series or the effort required of its developers.
I mean, think about the sheer number of songs that you have in a given game at this point.
Yeah, I mean, I was looking at it because I had to rip all the CDs for the Final Fantasy VII remake and Final Fantasy 16 soundtracks, because we're going to start Final Fantasy 16 tonight, and I want to say there's probably damn near 200 songs in the Final Fantasy 16 soundtrack. There are 8 CDs.
So yeah, like the sheer scope of what needs to be done, the fact that that's now going to be like fully instrumented, orchestral,
not just chip tunes, not just midis and simple rhythms and melodies like that.
And often it's going to be like fairly complex on the instrumentation. I always like to go back to Crystal Chronicles using stuff like crumb horns
and hurdy-gurdies.
Exactly.
And then kind of to finalize in that article, of course, he says it's great to see new people giving the series their all and making great games, but I was happy to get back in the saddle and contribute again. Uematsu continued. In 10, 20 years, when it's my time to go, I'll look back on this moment with tears in my eyes. That's just how happy I am with this song. And it's really, really cool to hear that Uematsu knows kind of where he's at in the industry. He realizes that he is an important part. I mean, he is, history. He is like the man when it comes to video game music to a lot of people. But he also has a lot of contemporaries now. Look at Soken. Look at a lot of the other Hama, who did the majority of 10 and 12. You're usually on top of those for me, Seyrr. Are you having brain farts today as well?
A little bit. Hitoshi Sakamoto?
Yes, there we go. And I thought there was one other. Shimamura.
That's the one.
That was the other one I was trying to think of. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot of very talented musical composers and directors at Square Enix. So I don't. And
I mean, for someone with a career that long, I know that oftentimes people in similar situations say one of the things that they really hope is to have the long-term impact of inspiring others, getting others into the field, and that's the number of people who cite Uematsu's work as an influence, the fact that there are now all these people who could take up the torch from him, like that in of itself, I think is like one of the finest compliments and like proofs of. It's like, yeah. When
he started in this business, he was a very young man.
And it was like a lot smaller. There wasn't as many, but now you have people who make their careers out of it, specialize in this type of thing. And again, a lot of them cite him as an influence. Yeah. Like not just doing all this stuff, but inspiring people to take up the torch and having others following in your footstep as well.
His legacy will definitely live on.
I like to hope he feels good about that. It sounds like he does.
Yeah. I mean, it's not often you get to make that type of indelible mark on an industry in such a positive way. So, he's definitely going to be one to remember, be remembered. That's what I was trying to say.
He is also getting to the point where he is thinking about his own mortality as well, which you never want to think about it, but we are about at that point, aren't we?
Yeah, it is what it is. Continuing on.
Not for a while yet, hopefully.
Next article, the Final Fantasy VII director has been promoted to the Square Enix executive staff. This article comes from GameInformer.com. It was written by Wesley LeBlanc. So Square Enix has promoted Rebirth director Naoki Hamaguchi to its executive staff alongside 4 others joining the ranks. The other promotions include that of Octopath Traveler series producer Tomoya Asano, Foamstar's general manager Takeshi Nozue, Takayuki Hamada, and the Deerfield Chronicle producer Takamasa Shiba, as reported by Game Developer. These 5 Square Enix developers join others in the company's executive staff, like Final Fantasy 16 director and 14 producer director Naoki Yoshida, and Final Fantasy series producer Yoshinori Kitase. So it's nice to see that they are really looking at the strong people within their ranks and recognizing their efforts.
It makes a huge difference to the company's culture, and like when you have stuff where they're drawing from within rather than bringing others outside.
Because it makes them think that they really are looking at, the people that are developing what they're selling, and wanting them to be the ones to create a lot of the different policies and drive the direction of the company. And it's a lot better than a lot of these other companies. If you look at like Embracer Group, they kind of are a holdings company that has ownership on tons and tons of game publishers, and they only look at things from a shareholder standpoint.
It's the weirdest thing, but like other industries as well, like longtime listeners of the show may know that for a while, especially before I got my library job when I was still in library school, I worked for Barnes & Noble. I did the retail bookstore thing. And just something as basic as once they changed the CEO to someone who actually cared about books and reading and didn't just see it as okay, this is a thing where we want to extract the maximum profit from. Once it was someone who had some amount of experience with the industry and cared about it, made a huge difference to a lot of stuff.
And when you're more driven by profits and KPIs, you lose sight of what you're actually doing in the industry, and it just leads to chaos.
Like, there's nothing wrong with wanting to make a profit. I'm not going to fault anyone for that.
No,
but you can make a profit and still care about like delivering a quality product, about having something that you're proud to put your name on.
And in the long term, I mean that's gonna something that will yield long-term success.
Yeah,
not just it may not maximize your return on investment or your potential earning, but it
and
makes
there's always
for
a lot of debate
about
about what the proper role of that is. But
I don't know. Like I said, I found that the companies seemed to be more driven by numbers, and profits seem to kind of fall by the wayside a lot faster than those that actually care about what they're doing.
Yeah, I mean, for a lot of them, that's not a bug. That's a feature. What you care about, if the person running it cares about maximizing their stop options and cashing out and going quickly, yeah, the company's going to suffer because its long-term health isn't being considered there.
Exactly. So we just need to make sure that and it's one of those things you can do by if you knowing a little bit about what the companies that you're supporting. And I know a lot of people really don't care about that, but if you do, and you have the opportunity to vote with your wallet in that case,
yeah, it's tricky. There can be stuff where what I would love is to be able to outright say, hey, this is what I think you should be focusing on, but I'm not a shareholder. I'm certainly not a shareholder at that level. So, and I mean, you can vote with your wallet, but that only works to some degree. Sometimes there isn't a lot you can do if someone else wants to run this company some other way. It sucks.
Yep. But I mean, like I said, it is what it is. We're just, a couple of guys who are really passionate about certain things, and we're just kind of, talking about it. So.
And it is nice to when you have these ones that come along where it's like hey, we share an ethos with these people, with this company. Like, God, there's just a lot of. This is the type of thing where I'm having a lot of thoughts and feelings about it that maybe are outside the scope of a news segment.
Yeah, probably, and especially it's a very busy news segment, so we should probably keep going.
But yes, it'll be interesting to see what direction those directors take the company in. I am intrigued to see, given like the games that they've worked on, if that is going to have an influence on what types of stuff Square Enix decides to develop in future. The inclusion of Tomoya or Takashi No is working on Foam Stars. Makes you wonder if they're going to have more of those sorts of games in there.
I mean, it would be nice because that, for a long time, live service games were really, profitable, especially during the early days of the pandemic, when people couldn't actually get out, they were utilizing live service games to communicate with their friends.
Right.
So, though a lot of that has fallen off the wayside, plus the fact that, the video game industry is at this point, kind of not as strong as it was last year, because it was one of those things where, there was just a lot more spending that could go to video games, and not every year is going to be a feast year, which we're kind of going to talk about a little bit here in this next story, talking about the struggles of Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. This article comes from comicsbeat.com. It was written by Christian Angeles. According to Famitsu, and I'm just going to go through a few key points in here. I do actually recommend you go and read this article. There's a lot of interesting thought put into it, kind of talking about the video game industry in general and where this game kind of falls in to a lot of that. So I hope you guys enjoy this. Anyway, according to Famitsu, physical sales of Final Fantasy VII Rebirth dropped 90% in Japan mere weeks after its release. Those numbers don't account for digital sales or the fact that it's selling well in every other country. The drop-off is considerably higher than with both Final Fantasy VII Remake and Final Fantasy XVI. A case could be made that the Final Fantasy brand might not appeal to Gen Z, who play a lot more online communal multi-platform games. And from a marketing approach, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth can feel intimidating to a new audience, as there are a lot of Final Fantasy games out there, none of which you need to play in order to enjoy this game, however.
Yeah, but if you're someone who's new to it, if I hadn't been playing the series, I would legitimately be wondering, okay, do I need to play all the others?
Because
we know that.
Yeah, in most cases, if there is a number behind a game, a lot of times, in order to fully understand what's going on, you need to have played some of the previous ones. Now, games like
Resident
Evil...
I need to play all 2020 NBA games? I'm hilarious.
In some games it started that way for a while. Like I think the Resident Evil series was kind of a little bit of a episodic. There was a continuation on a story with similar characters, but they've recently started to branch away from that and gone into a little bit different storylines. I think that are kind of related in the same universe. With I
mean, they even changed, instead of calling it, I want to say 8, they called it Village.
No, it's Resident Evil 8 Village.
But there's a type of thing where they stopped emphasizing the number as much and started like adding these other things to it.
Yeah,
I feel like it's an issue that any long-running franchise is going to have to deal with.
But yeah, with Final Fantasy, every named numbered game is very different, which is kind of neat. So,
but again, for new entrants, if you're in the store looking at this for the first time and you're wondering, or if you're a parent purchasing it and wondering, oh, are they going to like it if they don't have all of the first 14 or whatever?
Now, continuing on, time will tell if this game was a failure or a success story. Though in terms of game design, narrative, and the factors that make a quality video game, I think not only does the game excel, but also exceeds all expectations. Square Enix nailed it out of the park with this one. It's just that the times and really the gamers and their trends and behavior have changed, especially right now. Currently, video games are in a post-pandemic era of oversaturation. Layoffs are already catching up to their sky-high numbers of last year, and there are more games than ever before, with signs of consolidation in the industry everywhere. Final Fantasy VII Rebirth is also limited in accessibility, being a PS5 exclusive in an area where Xbox sales and PlayStation sales seem to be dropping. It's also the subject of timing. Releasing the game now was good timing for award season, as there won't be anywhere near as much competition this year, yet bad timing for sales, as the gaming industry on a whole is in a hangover period after what being considered one of the greatest years in AAA video gaming history. As it stands, titles such as Harry Potter's Hogwarts Legacy, Baldur's Gate, Elden Ring, Spider-Man 2, and The Last of Us Part 2 are still seeping into the top video game sales charts of this year, all of which can be affecting the game sales as there are too many games to play.
Yeah.
And yeah, there
I
are
certainly
a
feel
lot
that way sometimes.
there are a lot of good games to play, and you know, there were so many of them last year that there's really a backlog for a lot of things, and if you have a backlog, you know, that battle is real. Trent, you're never going to catch up.
The whole thing makes me think of like the Cambrian explosion, where you have like this huge like burst, like the conditions become right to have this huge growth of all sorts of new life forms, all sorts of stuff being tried, and then after that you start having these like extinctions and these die-offs. It's like ends up being not quite a cyclical thing, but kind of the boom that can't last. And it sounds like they're saying is that we are now maybe in the downswing of that.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it's maybe not necessarily being a bubble burst. It is a downswing, and
yeah,
everything is cyclical because you can't maintain constant growth all the time because it becomes unsustainable.
Yeah,
you end up starving out other pieces, and then everything just falls out of balance. I mean, my aquarium behind me is a great example of, you know, cyclical evolutions in, you know, maintaining the quality of the water for the fish. You have to maintain a very specific cycle. You know, otherwise, if one parameter gets out of whack, everything turns brown or green in there, and it's a lot of work to get it back. And the problem is the video games industry, the big players don't want to take the time to actually fix a lot of the problems that are keeping it out of balance, and we just get these big old loops.
I mean, again, it's a question of short term versus long term.
Mm-hmm.
If you're the only one who's doing that spending, like, are you the one who's effectively holding the bag or forking out the costs that everyone else gets to benefit from?
Yep,
it's messy.
Time will tell.
Lots of this stuff is messy.
But I mean, I think the game is amazing. I'm just hoping we don't have to wait until 2028 to play the third part of this.
Yeah. And it's kind of like talking about like this game that doesn't necessarily a financial success, but it is like high quality. It makes me think of a lot of stuff with movies where you may have like the big blockbusters that bring in a lot, and then the ones that are like critically acclaimed works of art. You
know what? I'm probably not the first person who's thought of this. Part 3 should be released on the 30th anniversary of Final Fantasy VII's initial release, which I believe was 1997. Was it when it was released? So was it?
God, that sounds right.
Was it April or was it August?
Let's see.
Looks January 31st, 1997.
For Japan, yeah.
Yeah. Well,
for North America, it would have been
September 7th. For some reason, I thought it was like April or August. Well, August would have been close for the U.S. release, but it was released in January in Japan.
I think was there something where we started seeing like demos, or was it a launch title? God, I can't remember.
No, I don't think it was a launch title for the PlayStation, but it came out because I want to say the PlayStation came out in '95. It was the first Final Fantasy on the console.
Right.
Anyway, that's not necessarily here nor there. I'm sure somebody
sidetracking as we usually do.
I'm sure somebody can comment on whether or not what it was. So, all right, let's go ahead and jump into a little bit of Final Fantasy 14 news. The Final Fantasy 14 and Final Fantasy 16 crossover is live, and it features Clive's outfit and the Best Boy minion and mount. Well, that part was a little bit paraphrased by me because Torgal is Best Boy. But this article comes from Game Informer and was written by Wesley LeBlanc. Let me copy and paste that. Thanks to a new crossover event between Final Fantasy XIV and Final Fantasy XVI, players can now make their Warrior of Light look like Clive and even ride atop his trusty dog companion Torgal. Plus, the crossover contains a new story quest line for Final Fantasy XIV, orchestral rolls to collect that feature songs from 16, and an adorable puppy Torgal minion. Dubbed the Path Infernal, Square Enix says, at the conjunction of two stars does the tale begin between Final Fantasy XIV and Final Fantasy XVI. And the crossover is now live, and you have until Wednesday, May 8th to complete the quest line, which begins with a land on fire in Ul'dah. In order to partake in this quest line, your Warrior of Light must be level 50, and you have to have completed the main scenario quest, The Ultimate Weapon, or in other words, you have to complete the main storyline for A Realm Reborn. Completing the quest gets your Warrior of Light the full regalia of Clive. That includes Messian vest, gauntlets, chausses, and solarets. So you get the entire, Dark Boy set that he has in 16. You also receive the Torgal Whistle, which allows you to ride a grown version of Torgal as a mount in 14, and the Torgal Pup Minion. And then after completing the crossover questline and obtaining these items, you can go to the Gold Saucer and pick up a Clive Rosfeld card for Triple Triad for a mere 200,000 MGP, as well as a number of Orchestrion rolls for 20,000 MGP each. So if you're sitting on a lot of MGP, this is a great place to spend some of that. 400,000
in total to get all the things, which, quite a few Orchestrion rolls in the mix there.
And it's a lot of good music, which a lot of it we're going to listen to over the next 8 episodes.
God, there's so many discs. See, think about poor Umetsu there. Previous ones, we had 1 disc, and again, it was simply 8 discs of music.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I mean, it's changed. I mean, look at Final Fantasy XIV over its 13-year lifespan. There are over 1,000 tracks of music for this one video game.
Even if some of them are remixes or variations on things or whatever, that's not necessarily a lot less work.
You still have to, start somewhere. Even the shortest song has to have some amount of planning to it. So, but yeah, I actually did complete this quest line before the show today, and it's actually kind of fun. You actually get to fight an incarnation of Ifrit, and it's quite an interesting storyline. So,
given the importance of Ifrit to Final Fantasy 16 story, that makes sense. Also, I will note that in the quest line, the Wandering Minstrel, Naoki Yoshida's quasi-ish avatar in the FF14. It's weird, but effectively representative, does take a bit more of a center stage in terms of the thing, which, given Yoshi P's involvement in the actual game,
makes a lot of sense.
Yeah,
it's cute. I think it's just awesome that the director.
It gave me a little bit of impression, a very proud parent be like, "Look at my boy! Look at what I made!" I found it endearing.
Yeah, I thought it was very nice that the producer of Final Fantasy 16 was able to work out some time with the producer director of Final Fantasy 14 and make this crossover happen. I'm sure both of them are very busy people and really need to had to work hard to try and squeeze out some time for each other.
It's tricky. I don't think you've ever seen both of them standing next to each other.
No, you have not seen them standing right next to each other ever.
Exactly. I chose my words carefully, damn it.
All right.
So yes. Plus,
now that you've stopped groaning,
you get a dog.
Yep. You get that good little boy back there.
Yeah. Though I feel a little hard pressed to give up the ninja dog from Mount Rokon.
But still, it's adorable.
Thinking about it, we get so many dogs, and we don't get nearly as many cats. Yeah. Well, I would complain, but the dogs are still pretty cute.
There's a lot of cats in there. What are you talking about?
There's more dogs, but there's a significant margin.
But there's Fat Cat. There's all of the lions and battle cats for the tank mounts.
Those aren't minions. Those aren't cute.
Well, I'm talking mounts. There's a lot more cat mounts, I think, there are dog mounts.
I mean, sure.
So I think it balances, man. I think it balances.
I want cute kitties. Give me cute kitties.
There's at least 3 cat minions, isn't there?
3.
Well,
How many dog minions are there? There's gotta be
more than that, because I mean, there's Katshi. There's
Katshi barely counts.
That's a cat. In Final Fantasy parlance, that's a cat.
It's not good.
It's a cat.
Okay, I mean, some incarnations of Katshi don't mind having you like rub their fur and whatnot.
Yeah, like the one in 7 Rebirth. Sorry, minor spoilers there potentially, but no, he's fine.
I think people know about Katshi in 7.
Do they? Well, if you're,
what are they even doing listening to this?
If you're of a
don't stop listening to us.
If you're of a certain age, yes, you do know. Those new to 7, no, they probably have no idea. Well, actually, if you're playing the game, you know. It's very, very, very heavily implied what's going on.
We've chosen a really weird thing to sidetrack on this time.
Well, I mean, but it's Final Fantasy, like literally Final Fantasy.
Your Final Fantasy.
I have lots of fantasies. I mean, what?
I don't even know what I meant by that. I don't want to get into what you meant by that.
Oh my.
That's what she said.
Anyways.
Hey,
yes.
I had to. Sorry.
Cute dog. Yoshi P showing off, like, again, it feels a little bit like very proud Papa showing off.
I mean, Torgal is best boy. And the fact... Go ahead.
I don't begrudge him that either.
No.
Like, he gets to show off. He did good.
The fact that we get to pet Torgal in 16, and they've brought something similar over to where there's little chocobo chicks that you have to help in Rebirth. I think you maybe have met them if you played the second demo in the Junon area.
Everyone's tired and sad and wants cute things, and I can't blame them for providing.
You can pet the little chocobo chicks as well. So, I mean, at least Square Enix is giving us the ability to get, some virtual serotonin boosts.
Can you pet the dog? Really has done so much for. I am reasonably sure that at least some people are designing their games with their rating on "Can you pet the dog?"
Well, also, I mean, if you think about it, if you go back,
this is a good thing. I'm not complaining.
Yeah. I mean, go back to the DS game Nintendogs.
I had that.
I'm sure a lot of people did. So
real dogs are so difficult to deal with. Also, we had cats. There was no way we were getting dogs.
Well, I mean,
my sister was more into it, but I wanted to try it.
We have a very good dog here, so I will.
Such a good boy.
He's
such a good boy.
Yes. Ein says hi, everybody.
Hi, Ein. I love you.
All right, let's go ahead and continue on with a little more Final Fantasy 14 news. Final Fantasy 14 Xbox players are getting banned for recruiting for their free companies. This article comes from Kotaku and is written by Kenneth Shepard. Let me go ahead and copy paste this for y'all. These will also be in the show notes for those of you listening on the podcast. So
this one feels like such an unforced error.
Yeah, and they're kind of doubling down. As many people know, Final Fantasy 14 is on Xbox now, and the MMORPG's transition to the system has been rough to say the least. On top of adding a new currency and requiring users to subscribe to Xbox Game Pass to play, the community is reporting bans on an Xbox system level for using the game's long-used vernacular and systems to group up with other players within Xbox Looking for Group feature. News of this started spreading online on March 29th, around a week after Final Fantasy XIV's long-awaited port came to Xbox. The controversy started with a post on Reddit from user TGB_B20KEN claiming they'd been banned on Xbox for using the term free company, which is a Final Fantasy XIV equivalent of a guild within Xbox Looking for Group feature. The feature is, as the company describes it, a players wanted bulletin board where users can look for other players to join their game. In the post, which now has over 1,000 upvotes, the user says they filed an appeal to have the ban removed, which was denied by Xbox's moderation team. The ban is set to last 61 days. and was in response to the message asking for new players, known colloquially as Sprouts, if they wanted to join their free company. Quote, "Hello, Sprouts. We are looking to recruit for a new free company that accepts anyone. Please have Discord because we have PC players. PM if interested, friends." Unquote.
That's so anodyne. Like, how does that?
Some responded by asking the user if they may have been the Discord solicitation that triggered the ban. But the user claims they've asked people to be willing to use Discord on the platform before and pointed out that Xbox has integrated the social media platform into its services. Other users are reporting similar issues, whether that be in using systems like Final Fantasy XIV's recruitment codes or putting out general inquiries to bring players into their free companies. Reddit user Mr. Pink Says Things states that a friend was banned for 2 days after listing his recruitment code in the in-game chat. Twitter user @Bishamonvina, meanwhile, responded to the official Final Fantasy XIV account with another example of someone being banned for using Xbox's looking for group feature. This post doesn't even use the term free company, instead using the abbreviation FC. The whole situation is a messy example of how automated moderation can backfire. Whatever the Xbox system flagged here is clearly missing the context of what is a very normal Final Fantasy XIV interaction. Now, after a decade of waiting for the MMO to come into the platform, Xbox players are having to find ways to talk around years of established terminology just to be able to experience the game as intended. But hey, at least they got that really aesthetic Final Fantasy XIV Xbox Series system that doesn't work.
I mean, it's an art piece. I don't begrudge people an art piece.
It's funny though. They're giving away
It is funny.
a box that's shaped like the Xbox Series X in blue, surrounded by an aetheryte crystal. But it does not play games. If you win it,
it's a commemorative art piece.
If you win it, you get that and a regular Xbox Series X.
It's an art piece. I'm okay with this.
It's still weird.
I mean, it's unusual.
But that weirdness aside, I really think they really need to look into fixing this system and reversing those bans. I mean, it's really going to put a bad taste in a lot of players' mouths if Microsoft does not back off on this. I haven't heard any other additional news on this, whether or not there has been a backlash that's caused Microsoft to turn around.
It was so much effort to even get this deal to happen. Like, I kind of wonder what's going on internally with it. Mm-hmm. If Square Enix is... Like, I would love to see some of the emails going back and forth between them, because I'm sure this is considered a situation all around.
It's not from the users actually playing in the game and talking about FCs there, because that's normal. It's within, like, inside Xbox's system, where they have an ability for people to look for other players for games.
Got it. So yeah, in that case, like, Square Enix may have less of an ability to do stuff, but that's just so weird. Just like...
Yeah, it's.
I'm trying to think of how, because I remember with Final Fantasy 11, there's just the whole thing of like, okay, you have people who are like effectively joining this community as when new platform, the couple times that new platforms got added, and it's like there's some growing pains in getting stuff integrated. And if you have something where they can't use the terminology, where they're kind of forever apart from it.
Mm-hmm. I mean. You want to be able to utilize, the specific in-game vernacular, because otherwise, some people may not quite understand, what's going on, with that specific game. So it just seems like there needs to be a little bit more personalized moderation, where people are actually monitoring and double checking these bans that are going through and saying, oh, this is ridiculous.
That ain't free though.
Well, but I mean, that's why these systems all have, people as backups for this stuff.
Oh, sure. But I'm also sure they want to like minimize the amount they're needing to pay.
Well, otherwise they could potentially lose customers. Instead of playing on the Xbox, they may end up switching to PC, or they might, buy a PlayStation and not go back to Xbox.
I mean, if it costs them more to like do the moderation and the like, they might consider losing the customers to be worth it if they think it's going to be effectively too expensive to keep them.
That just seems like
I
backwards
don't know.
logic.
I mean, if it costs you, if you get like $100,000 a month from these things, and the amount you need to pay, say, 5 people, like 30,000 a year, like some super cheap, that's a little less minimum wage, but that you're like the amount you're needing to pay people is already dwarfing the amount you're bringing in from this. At that point, it becomes it's just not worth it.
The thing is, there actually is, like we mentioned in the article, it talks about, somebody tried to get their ban overturned, and the moderator denied it. There needs to be more instruction to the people who are double checking these things. I think is the issue.
It would not be the first time I'd seen someone who is in charge of a thing not really seem to have an understanding of their own company's policies.
Yeah. Because I mean, if you're looking at a situation like this where you're already paying the people, so there is no additional cost involved. It's already their job to have to go through and check these requests to reverse a ban.
Maybe you need to pay more in order to get people who care enough about it or something. I don't know.
Yeah, it's a very weird situation, but it's not looking positive when it's Microsoft.
No,
on the other side.
No, it is not.
So, well,
what a weird situation.
We will make sure to try and report if any updates, if we encounter any on this one, because this is probably a situation that will have some developments over the next few weeks.
Now I kind of want to try to get myself banned from Xbox. I shouldn't actually do that. Why did I think this is a good idea? Well, first impulse that popped into my head.
Well, first you have to buy an Xbox.
I've got PC.
But that's not Xbox.
It's got an Xbox app. But I have Game Pass on it.
But it's not Xbox. I don't know if that feature is part of Xbox for Game Pass or PC.
I have friends who have an Xbox. I guess they wouldn't be friends for much longer if I did that.
No. Moving on to our last news story before Seyrr, alienates all of his friends and potentially us. Final Fantasy XVI's April update will fix the game's most annoying flaw. This comes from the website TrueTrophies.com. Was written by Lee Brady. Final Fantasy fans on PS5 sure are getting spoiled in 2024. Not only are we set to receive more Final Fantasy XVI trophies alongside the game's second wave of DLC, but we have also learned that Final Fantasy XVI will receive a free update in April 2024. The update makes a significant change to how the game handles side quests, and it's a big deal, because had it been there at launch, the feature might have bumped the score for Final Fantasy XVI up a digit. Final Fantasy XVI will receive a free PS5 update on Thursday, April 18th, 2024, alongside the launch of Rising Tide. The update includes a few desirable features that will be accessible to all 16 players, Final Fantasy 16 players, whether they own the game's DLC or not. For one, players will finally be able to customize the game's button layout, a feature that we've been requesting for almost a year at this point. There will also be a few minor changes to the game's menus. Players will be able to more readily see which side quests are actually important, change abilities and accessories a little easier, and also a new icon ability set feature will allow you to try out Clive's new moves without losing his previous playstyle. However, none of that compares to the changes being made to side quests, which legitimately might save players, particularly trophy hunters, from having a bad time while playing the game. The new feature is called Quick Complete, and it allows players to return to a quest giver immediately upon meeting their criteria of the quest. For those who have not endured the 20-hour slog that is completing all of Final Fantasy XVI side quests, you now may never know just how exhausting it was to have to navigate back and forth to quest givers after completing objectives.
You know what? That's okay. We do this so that next generations don't have to suffer. That is the goal.
I will say I actually completed all of the side quests in the old fashion, and I can agree it was a little bit cumbersome. I don't know if it was as bad as what they said.
What I'm hearing is that our next round of Patreon donations is going to therapy.
I'm actually not going to say that they're as bad as what Lee kind of described here in this article, but it did require a lot of running back and forth. I mean, there's a good amount of quick travel in the game, but the fact that, you know, even 14 had the ability to teleport back to a quest giver once something was complete in certain cases. Am I not?
Leave quests largely.
Lev quests,
which,
yes.
I mean, yeah, which I mean, for those, since they were really like they're intended to be a little more efficient, like they're not the side quests in FF14's terminology were a lot more story based. Leave quests were kind of the quick.
And I mean,
so, yeah,
the side quests did, you know, kind of allow players to explore a little bit more about the world in 16. And a lot of them, you know, if you did complete them, it allowed you to have a little bit easier time in end game stuff. But I mean, they weren't required. But like I said, for those of us who like to complete everything in there and make sure that we had best weapons and all of that good stuff, you do want to complete those side quests. And
I mean, why even offer the challenge if you're not intended to do it?
There aren't
what is this fucking absolute virtue?
There aren't that many side quests, really, when you think about it. I'd say it's maybe 10% of what you see in Final Fantasy 14.
I mean, that feels like an unfair comparison for a variety of reasons.
A lot more side quests than what I've seen in Final Fantasy 7 Rebirth, though. But I mean, two different systems.
Yeah, it's always like that's always kind of an interesting thing, like especially for stuff where I've talked about FF13 before, where one of the big things is like you are literally fugitives. You don't have time to be dilly-dallying and making conversation with the locals.
Well, what if you want to shilly-shally instead?
You don't want to be talking to the locals because that's going to get you reported. Like in some settings, it makes more sense than others.
Well, you're a fugitive in 7 and in 16 as well.
Also, there's some points where you're kind of a fugitive in 8, especially the bit with some of the segments in S-Star.
You're a fugitive in a lot of Final Fantasy games. You're a fugitive in 9 when you steal the princess.
Yeah.
You're a fugitive in in 6.
On the wrong side of the law.
Yeah, I mean you're basically a fugitive
going on here?
In all of the games. What the hell, man? So
this is not setting a good example for children.
But I mean, if you think about it, you know, they compare all of the Final Fantasy games to Star Wars, and in Star Wars, realistically, the main characters were all fugitives from the Empire.
I mean, yes. There's lots of people who are not.
Also, your camera froze.
Oh, dang it.
Oh, it just unfroze.
Yay, I exist again.
Well, you had an interesting smile/grimace on your face, so it's kind of like it was funny.
Maybe not analyzing that one too hard.
Maybe it's time to look into upgrading the drivers on your webcam or something. I don't know.
I should probably check into that. I think it's been a minute since I looked at it. All
right. Now let's go ahead and jump into our discussion topic, or well, today it's basically music time. Since Final Fantasy 16 has its crossover event going on now, and the fact that the Rising Tide DLC is going to be coming out later this month, I figured, you know, let's go ahead and jump into the Final Fantasy 16 original soundtrack. I had been sitting on it here for quite a while, and I just recently went through and copied all of the tracks to my computer for, you know, so I could go through and, you know, play them digitally like this. So yeah, let's go ahead and get started on this. This is disc 1 of 8 discs in the series.
So many.
Actually, it looks like it's just over an hour of music. But let's start with our first theme, Land of Eikons. This is the main menu theme when you boot the game up. And if you listen real closely, you can hear the motifs from Prelude right now, in a little bit of a minor key.
Yeah, it's definitely a little bit of a darker aspect to it.
Well, the game is pretty dark. I mean, this is Square Enix's only mature rated Final Fantasy.
Yep.
And I'm glad that they, went a little bit heavier on the game. I really enjoyed some of those, a little bit exploring the darkness, so to speak, and made a more adult game that's more geared towards, the older crowd.
Yeah. I mean, given that we've had games that had a more political bent to them, that sometimes explored themes about death, other stuff like that.
Like 12.
Yeah, like as the medium matures, it makes sense that you'd have stuff that would be aimed towards an older group.
Yeah, I mean, this one dealt with a lot of, of issues like slavery and how wars and battles really affect not only those fighting on the front lines, but those that are, either being besieged or are being actively attacked. The people who are supporting these armies, it's just you feel the whole world is not in a great place as you're running through it, and
yeah. Can't imagine why that kind of thing would resonate with people lately.
Anyway, Seyr's snark aside, let's go ahead and jump into our second theme.
But I'm so good at it.
This is called Away Overture. This plays during the game's intro and the first fight as Phoenix. And if you listen closely, it also contains motifs from Prelude. And there's a lot of tension.
Yeah, the intro sequence.
And it picks up quite a bit here.
Yeah, my recollection is that the intro sequence has quite a lot of pitched battle going on. Mm-hmm. It's the kind of in media res where we're going to be going back to fairways afterwards, but...
Yeah, I want to say it starts in present day, so to speak, with Clive already kind of... Isn't he captured at this point? He has the...
Yeah.
And then it cuts back 5 years or whatever amount of years it is back to
Yep.
Yeah.
In order to explain how we got here.
Yep. The story thus far. But yeah, I do remember then in the battle where you're fighting as Phoenix, and you're just kind of flying around trying to avoid this other fire icon that is attacking you. It's a very pitched battle. I mean, you're basically fighting as giant versus giant kind of thing. I mean,
yeah.
In 16, icons are larger than life.
Yeah, gods is not quite appropriate because it's powers that are wielded by people, but it is... I've mentioned before about how in a lot of, especially in Type 0 and others, you have this thing of like, okay, summons, icons, whatever you call them, as, okay, no, these are these great full-on primal power, world-destroying whatnots, and this is no exception.
Except, yeah, the difference being that I think aren't they also kind of wielded by people in Type 0, I mean, the students?
I mean, in a lot of yeah, but in a lot, well, sort of.
Not in the same way as the dominance.
It's effectively, this is something with the power of a god, but under the control of a human. What can a person do with that kind of power? Right. The degree to which they actually have control, a lot of the other aspects are explored, but consistently, these are power incarnate, pure raw ability to inflict your will on the world.
All right, let's go ahead and jump into our next theme, which is called The Lion and the Hare, the Nysa Defile. This also is played in the area called the Nysa Defile, and also contains prelude motifs. Now, if I remember correctly, the Nysa Defile, that's the scene in the swampy area where you're fighting the goblins and the Malboro?
No,
the
you're
beginning?
thinking of... Let's see.
I'm trying to remember.
Yeah, you're
back.
thinking of later on. Like, the Nysa Defile, I think it's still the same area where those are...
is this still in the current day?
Yes.
Before the flashback?
Yes.
Okay.
We'll be getting into the stuff in, you're talking about Stillwind. We'll be getting to that a little later.
So yeah, this is happening while the character known, what is his, Wyvern, is fighting alongside a couple of other enemy named companions. I can't remember what each person has a code name.
Yeah, it's pretty much like a call sign kind of thing.
To dehumanize them as much as possible.
I mean, that's on the one hand, you don't necessarily, if there's any chance that your enemies are going to overhear it, you don't want to give them more information than you have to.
Yeah.
But also, in this particular case, there is also a certain amount of like, you have given up some amount of your humanity to be part of this.
Mm-hmm. Or your humanity was taken away from you and you were forced to be a part of this.
Yes. The given up implies a certain amount of willingness, and as we'll see later on, that was absolutely not the case for at least one of our members.
Yes. So this is in that fight scene that we're watching the two other armies battle up against each other, and we're supposed to take out the Shiva dominant.
Yep. And yeah, more prelude motifs. We're getting a lot of them already.
Well, I mean, this is all still at the very beginning of the game.
Yeah.
And this is all in the first hour. We'll go ahead and jump into the next one. And this is called Shattered, and plays in the scene where Shiva is fighting Titan. And it contains motifs from the songs My Star and Heart of Stone.
Yeah, Shattered is an interesting choice, as that's something that you could apply both to rock and to ice. Very appropriate for this clash.
And here you get to see firsthand, the impressive stature of the dominance. Shiva's is more quasi-normal size, what we are used to seeing for like an icon or a summon. But yeah. Titan, a big boy.
And like one of the things that we get out of this is that icons are extremely variable, we'll say. That there's not going to be, okay, these are all giant world ending, or okay, these are just kind of like larger super soldiers. Like, icons really run the gamut.
And I love how this fits so well in the scene, as you're seeing you're not only just seeing these two icons battling, but you're also seeing that all of the armies working alongside them, trying to provide as much support as they can, as they use the dominance to try and gain an advantage against their opponent.
Yeah, you've got siege weapons, you've got various attack and counterattack forces going on. This still remains a full-scale, like full-on battle.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, there are lots of enemies fighting one another, with our three companions over on the side, monitoring one side, trying to, complete their objective. And it changes here where the battle is shifting quite a bit, where Shiva's kind of, I think at this point Shiva's getting her ass handed to her just a little bit, because Titan is Titan's dominant is a very big, burly, take no prisoners, asshole kind of guy. At least, you know, that's kind of your first take on him. And you're not wrong.
Yeah, it does kind of become one of those things where it's like, okay, is the person shaped and molded by their dominant? Are you a dominant if you, like, are you good candidate to be this if you already have those qualities? Like, there is kind of a lingering question of like how exactly one becomes a dom and what qualities, the exact nature of this connection.
Mm-hmm. It's a lot of it seems like the personality of the icon is based off of the dominant.
Yeah.
All right, we'll go ahead and move on to our next theme. A rose is a rose. This plays at Rosalith Castle and is an arrangement of On the Wind Born.
On the Wind Born, of course, being the Rosarian ducal anthem. So this is kind of the leitmotif that we have for stuff that's happening in Rosaria.
Yep, and this is where we cut back in time to see how our what actually caused our protagonist how did we get here? There we go. Brain not working well today. So let's just listen to music instead. But it's a very nice song. It's very regal. It's very uplifting.
Yeah. It has some, especially compared to what we've already been hearing. We've been having a lot more like the brutal, down and dirty I think this is kind of the more like noble, like the cleaner, nicer side of the medieval setting.
So when you played this, right? You played 16. When you first met, let's actually go to our next song here because this is quite a long theme. So we'll jump into Return of the Archduke. Plays during the scene of Duke Elwin's return. Now, when you first met this man, did he give you Sean Bean vibes?
A little bit, yeah.
Did that make you feel bad for him?
No, I mean, I'm like, okay, I like this guy. Like, I don't immediately have the, okay, Sean Bean, that means this. Well, we'll get it to that. Yeah.
If you played the game, spoiler alert, you know he dies.
I mean, it happens pretty early.
Yeah.
It's just that we're going to get to it shortly, so. Yeah.
But dude is just such a good guy. He loves both of his sons. He cares about the people that he's, entrusted to rule over. And he's just a
like when you
upstanding citizen. He's just a great guy.
Like you have your depictions of like the noble, honorable, and he's that in spades. Kind of the ideal of what they should be aspiring to.
Yes.
Like Clive is, as established fairly early on, he is not the favorite, but you never think that just looking at the interactions between him and Duke Edwin.
No. While Clive is the elder brother, his younger brother Joshua ends up getting the blessing of the Phoenix. And in Rosaria, whoever has that blessing, whoever is the dominant of Phoenix, becomes the ruler of the duchy. And his father actually was holding on to it for him because he also did not get the blessing. It kind of skipped a generation, apparently.
Yeah, that was one thing that we did see come up a bit where Rosaria, it's whoever is the dominant, it becomes their ruler. In other places, it's okay, someone who's kind of like a high level official, but maybe not the leader. So this isn't necessarily a universal thing, but we do see that for Rosaria, this is this extremely important element.
Yep, and it's because of what the Phoenix is, what it symbolizes, they wanted to make sure that the dominant is able to lead the country or the duchy and kind of by example, and continue to rebuild and survive and thrive. Because the Phoenix is about rebirth and life. Let's go ahead and continue on to our next theme.
Correct.
Called My Lady. Plays during the scene of Jill and Clive talking at the balcony, which is also an arrangement of My Star.
We won't be getting into My Star in this episode.
No, it's coming up in a later disc, but it's really cool that they've kind of established themes for the different characters. So you know by listening to the music who is involved with it. And you can tell early on that there is something special going on between these two. We don't know the full story, what's going on with Jill at this point, but we know she is a guest of the duchy, and is staying with them in Rosaria. So, but as we learn later on, a lot of these guests are kind of political prisoners, so to speak.
Hostage would be a better term. This was actually a fairly common thing in some societies.
Sadly.
In order to encourage people to think twice about making war on their neighbors, each of you would take effectively a hostage who would be living in your territory, who would be raised among yours, who would generally be treated reasonably well, because the goal is you don't want to hurt them.
Mm-hmm.
It's more of it would be a really bad idea for you to start anything with us.
Yeah, she actually is the daughter of somebody in one of the neighboring countries, so to speak.
Yeah, northern ones, I believe.
Who I believe end up getting invaded by the Empire. I think I don't remember everything about the game. It was such a good game, but it delved into a lot of really archaic and no longer utilize tropes like this. So
yeah. Now, as I said, the treatment of hostages could vary. Jill is treated especially well. She's effectively raised alongside Clive and Joshua. She's treated as one of the family, so she's on some level practically a sister.
Mm-hmm. So because from what we found, from the duchy, they are very noble, and they do not, they're not playing the game. They're living what they're preaching, which is nice to see. Moving on, our next theme was kind of where I was thinking we were at earlier. This is Into the Mire, Stillwind. This is playing in the area where it's kind of a trial, so to speak, for young Clive, as he's dispatched on a little side mission by his father to investigate some enemies taking over this little village in the swamplands. So he's sent to figure out what's going on and dispatch any enemies that he finds. And it's mainly goblins up until we find a very, very angry Marlboro. But
that's kind of more than the local wildlife than anything else.
Yeah, but it was still big and nasty. But this is the
100%.
This is the thing that plays as you're exploring this Stillwind area, this very swampy, wet, kind of verdant area.
Verdant's a good word for it. Yeah.
Because it's not like
Clive actually has some knights accompanying him for this.
Yep, they're more as kind of babysitters and backup. They're there to kind of monitor and make sure that he does what he's told, and to kind of help cover him if it's too much.
Right.
Which we learn quickly that Clive is a very adept swordsman. for being so young. I mean, he's what, about 15 at this point?
I mean, in some cultures, that's practically the age of majority right there.
Yeah, true.
It does feel young for us, though.
Yeah. Realistically, Clive's still a kid.
Yeah.
All right, let's keep moving on. Once he finds the Goblin King or the Goblin Lord or something like that, like a big goblin, the one in charge, the Goblin Leader, let's just call him. This is called There His Quarry Lies, and it just plays while Clive is chasing after the Goblin Leader in Stillwind.
It's quite a battle. The goblins use some amount of actual tactics.
These goblins do.
I know oftentimes for a lot of things like, oh, goblins are just like the weakest of the weak. Yeah. Like goblins are the weakest of the weak and all that. But it's like, no, these ones are actually making it a little bit difficult. Making use of their small size, of pack tactics.
As well as, you know, knowing when to bring in the big guns.
Yeah.
Like they'll bring in some trolls as well as other wildlife. So, I mean, it's not just like, you know, you're walking outside of Cornelia Castle and you're fighting the goblins in the woods there in Final Fantasy 1. These goblins do have a little bit of, you know, they're a little bit of thinking and a little bit of strategy. It's kind of nice. Yeah. It's a nice little tutorial.
Given that this is supposed to be a challenge for him, it's nice that they make it with like, again, yeah, this is another one that I suddenly have a lot of thoughts about. There actually are a couple anime I've seen that kind of explore this. The idea that like, oh, these things that are traditionally like, oh, it's just this weak little stuff. It's like, no, you should actually take these things seriously.
Oh, I mean, look at Goblin Slayer.
Can be a threat. That is actually the one I was thinking of.
Yeah,
God,
I mean,
that's such a good one.
It's a good series. All right, let's go ahead and continue on.
It really is.
I mean, this I think also plays when he's fighting the Morble.
Yeah.
All right. Our next theme is On the Wind Born, the Rosarian. No. Where the heck? What's going on here?
Did it jump a track?
Did I skip a track? No. I skipped a track. I'm sorry, guys. This is 16 Bells. That's what happened. This is the normal encounter theme. So when you're fighting the goblins normally, this is okay. I skipped a line in my notes here, so my apologies. So the one we had just been listening to is called 16 Bells. So apparently he's 16 years old in this one. I mean, stands to reason,
bells
right?
would have been more traditionally used. Bells would have been more traditionally used as a unit of timekeeping.
Time? Okay. Well, I mean, he is in that age bracket, though, 15 or 16.
Yeah.
All right. But let's go ahead and, so we did 16 bells. Let's do There His Quarry Lies now. This is the battle theme that plays while the Clive is chasing after the Goblin Leader. It's like, this doesn't sound like On the Wind Born. What the heck is going on here? So it's a little, you know, so we just fought a bunch of these other goblins, and now we've encountered the Goblin Leader. He's a little bit more tactful, a little bit more deceitful, and you know, is kind of utilizing his goblin henchmen as pawns, so to speak, to get away from Clive and the knights that are working with him.
Yeah. He's properly assessed him as a threat.
And then once he finally completes his task, then let's just let it play.
I was oddly touched by this. Whatever. Like you've never gotten drunk and sang the national anthem.
Yep. I haven't actually.
Oh, this is a fixable problem.
I don't want to get arrested. And if I remember the story correctly with this was actually sung by like some of the developers. Like Koji had gotten a bunch of the localization team, or some of the American English speaking developers together to sing this. I could be wrong. But I mean, it gave it that. I know they did something similar to that in 14 for a specific track. Like when you, I think when you started singing really badly in that the Starlight Choral events.
Right, which they used in a couple other things as well.
Yeah. So I want to say they did something like that here, so it made it seem more real.
Yeah.
If not, it makes it for a great story, doesn't it?
I mean, and just in general, you kind of okay, these are soldiers who are coming back. I feel like it works. Like it really is something where it's less about, oh, here's the real thing, the majesty. This is about it's about the camaraderie. Like you even have the Duke there, like spending some time with his men. It's about this kind of like rough and tumble, but also like really friendly together aspect to it.
What that was On the Wind Born, the Rosarian Ducal Anthem. So that was a bunch of the soldiers, the shields of Rosaria, sitting with the Duke, and they were singing and celebrating together.
Yeah,
I thought it was really sweet. I forgot about that until just now, so it brought up a nice memory. Let's go ahead and jump into our next theme. This is called Duty. D-U-T-Y, you weirdos. I know you were thinking it. Because I was thinking it. Duty. Anyway, this plays during the scene of Clive and Joshua talking at Phoenix Gate. And this is an arrangement of Away, which we will hear later on as well. It's a little sad.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of it, like, especially given Away, of course, being kind of the theme of the Phoenix, Joshua being the person who is the dominant of the Phoenix, who, like, a lot of his stuff is about this duty that he has. Kid clearly wants to just like be a kid and like spend time with his beloved brother.
He's 10 years old.
Yeah.
And he's going to be taking on the mantle of the Duke of Rosaria.
Yeah.
And he's telling his big brother that it should be him. You're the strong one. You're the one who's was gifted with all of the physical traits. Joshua is a very strong magic user, but is very weak constitutionally.
Yeah. There actually are a couple segments where
he's not like he's bad with drafting laws of the land, but
yeah, there are a couple segments where you play as Joshua and like weaker, moves slow. A couple points where he can swing a weapon and big wind up and recovery time.
But when that spell damage goes out, it's big.
Yeah. Clearly is still a kid, even for a kid, pretty weak.
But I mean, he also actually does have some physical ailments,
right? Because
of the condition, of his having the powers of the Phoenix. Hi, Rory. Glad you could make it.
Yeah. Poor kid.
Yeah. Good song. Very sad. Our next theme is called Enterprising Traders. Now this plays in the scene where the Sambrekis are infiltrating Phoenix Gate. So you know some shit's going down. The music's telling you that. Shh, hey listen, some shit's going down. A lot of tension, a lot of, suspense building right here.
It just seemed to have the name of Enterprising Traders, this of course being the cover identity.
Yes.
So it's a little bit of kind of a sarcastic nod to that.
Mm-hmm. And it's not until one of the traders basically gut stabs one of the ducal knights, and as they're trying to infiltrate Phoenix Gate, do we realize that these are assassins. These are, some shit's gonna go down.
Yeah.
If the music couldn't tell you already, the fact that they killed somebody does.
Yeah.
All right, moving on. This is Betrayal, Phoenix Gate. So this is when Clive and Joshua and some of the other knights are kind of realizing that something's going down, and they need to get out of there.
Got that kind of dramatic swelling.
Yep.
Lots of horns.
But it's just so deep and dark. Something's going on.
Yeah.
Let's go ahead and move forward. This is called Twin Flames, and it plays during the scene when Clive urges Joshua to go with their father. Again, another arrangement of Away. So this is a very Phoenix-centered arrangement. And Clive doesn't want to separate from his brother. I mean, he is the first shield of Rosaria, and it is his sworn duty to protect the dominant, who is his brother. But he realizes that to be the safest would be probably to be with their father at this point.
Right.
While he tries to figure out what's going on.
It's well because in addition to the whole concept of his duty, like we do get see a lot of emphasis on like how much Joshua loves and cares about his brother, but we do get a little bit of Clive also caring a lot about his brother.
Yeah, there's a lot.
So for him having to confront that
he's here.
Yeah, having to confront that he's not really able to protect his brother at this point.
But he's taking his job very seriously, and to Clive, duty is most important because that's what their father instilled in both of them.
Yeah, like it's a sad recognition, but it's still also a mature one.
This next theme is called Found, and it plays when a hooded figure spots Clive. And it's done. Like, oh, he's been found. So this is
a very pretty fast.
It's a mysterious hooded character that Clive ends up thinking is going to do some terrible shit to Joshua when it comes up here. So we'll continue on. This theme is called Time and Death. This is a very harrowing scene in the game. It plays where Duke Elwyn is attacked and killed, which causes Joshua to prime into Phoenix. which also ends up containing more elements of Away.
Yeah. I mean, you've seen it in any number of things, this idea of the traumatic event that causes the person to access this previously hidden power.
Well, in this
Still,
case,
though,
we
the sheer
know
intensity.
that Joshua already has this power, but this is what this ends up pushing him over the edge, and I think he uncontrollably turns into Phoenix Prime. Instead of, manifesting some of the power of this icon, he just takes everything on and doesn't have full control over it at this point, really.
Yeah, it's crazy to see this kind of like godlike being crying out with the voice of a kid, clearly scared, clearly, there's a lot about it that's just kind of rough to watch.
And after this scene, we end up getting the match. This plays during the scene of Ifrit appearing at Phoenix Gate and is an arrangement of Find the Flame, another track we'll hear a little later on in this series.
Yeah. In this context, the match is the match that one strikes that lights a flame, given that this is the first appearance of Ifrit, the ignition of this flame that is going to become this major thing throughout the story.
And up until now, everybody thought that Phoenix was the only fire icon, but now we have a second fire icon that has appeared.
Yeah, in general, there's the belief that there can only be one icon of a given thing at a time. There can only be one fire, one ice, all that. So the appearance of a second fire icon throws a lot of stuff into question.
Yes. And now we get Away. This is Joshua's leitmotif and plays during the Battle of the Phoenix versus the Icon of Fire and Bahamut later on in the game. So this is the big battle theme for anything involving the Phoenix and Joshua.
Yeah, even as like the Phoenix, there was a lot in the palace, like even that early on that I really like. You've got what is clearly, it's like, yes, it's this godlike power, and it's clearly a scared kid effectively piloting it.
Yeah.
It's like the flight through the caves underneath is wild and uncontrolled.
Yeah, but it really it was an interesting way of introducing iconic fighting.
Yeah. I mean, I also love during the brief sequence where you could control Joshua as a kid, where, again, as you mentioned, these like phenomenal magical powers, but also like needing this really long recovery time. He's showing that has this power, but not well suited to fighting.
No.
And the icon battle here also really getting through a lot of that, like how much of this is not the type of thing that one normally expects for, okay, here is this great battle between.
But it was a fun fight. I enjoyed how
it was great.
how they designed it, how it was implemented. But yeah, just everything that's going on right now, it's like, what the heck is going on? It's like everything that could go wrong has gone wrong.
And then some.
So this continues for a while, and plays up until the point where this mystery icon of fire beats the shit out of the Phoenix, and Clive believes that his brother has been slain, along with his father and the rest of the ducal army that was with them.
Yeah, pretty huge reversal of fortunes there.
Yeah, and then through the door walks more Sambrek soldiers and Clive's mother.
Yeah.
You want to talk about a turn of events? Clive's mother has been basically sold out the entire duchy of Rosaria to the Sambrek Empire, and then puts her eldest son in basically
she pretty much like sells him into slavery.
To fight for the Sambrek army as a bearer.
Yeah,
because he bears a little bit of the power of the Phoenix gifted to him by birth and his brother.
Yeah, it's like the woman goes to like waste. She wastes no time in making herself like clearly okay. She's going to be the villain of this piece, or one of the villains of.
Yep.
Utterly unsympathetic.
Like, I mean, she basically gave up on Clive when he was not chosen to take the power of the dominant, and when her youngest son was so weak, she basically sold him out to try and get a new dominant of the Phoenix.
Yeah, she very throughout established herself as like a very power hungry. Yeah.
She's a bitch. Let's just call it that.
Just a bit.
Just a little bit. All right, let's go ahead and jump into our next one, which pushes us back to the current times, so to speak. And we are now listening to Winter's Bound. This plays during the boss battle with Shiva's Dominant, which is also an arrangement of My Star.
Funny that.
Which is the theme of somebody else here that we are going to be reintroduced to. So at this point, we learn that Wyvern is Clive. 5 years, some years later, after his brother and father were killed at Phoenix Gate, and he was sold into slavery of the Sambrek army to act as a bearer, being he has magical ability. He is basically on an assassin squad to go capture the dominant of Shiva, who is currently fighting against Waloed and the dominant of Titan. Lots of countries to remember in this game.
All come full circle. Ish. At the very least, the stuff that we had set up at the beginning, we're back now with a little bit more understanding of who these people are, all these different powers are playing against each other.
And in our next theme,
I do love a good in media res.
Yep. Our next theme here now is Frozen Tears. It is another arrangement of My Star where Clive recognizes Jill. Yes, that Jill. She came from a northern land and was the dominant of Shiva. Who knew?
Yeah, it's... after the fall of Rosaria, there would have been all these questions about like, okay, where have these other people ended up? Or lots of unanswered stuff, and this is where we start getting some pictures of some of that.
Yep. So
where all these pieces ended up.
This next bit is called Tonitra Ex Machina. This plays when a new character comes on the scene. A jaunty man dressed in purple. Quite a fellow. Goes by the name of Sid.
The name, we've heard Deus Ex Machina any number of times before. Tonitrua, in this case, is yet another Latin word for lightning. So in this case, it's lightning in the machine.
And we learn Sid, who is kind of a little bit of a loose cannon, kind of like a what's the word I want here? He's kind of he's not affiliated with any major
Free agent.
There you go. Free agent will work in this aspect. Yeah, he's kind of playing by his own rules. He's doing his own thing. And he, in this point, is when he comes in and he saves Clive and Jill from the Iron Blood, who was chasing them after Clive recognized Jill and got her out of there, basically freeing her from her servitude of the Iron Blood, who took her back once the duchy was basically demolished. Next. And actually, our final theme of Disc 1 is called Gathering Clouds. This plays in a cutscene where Benedicta, a character we'll learn more about in further on in the game, watches Sid come to Clive's rescue and is an arrangement of control. Another one of the leitmotifs that we'll discuss later on in the game as we learn more about all these characters. So yeah, I mean, at this point we've gone through maybe 3 hours of the game.
We've pretty much just done the kind of like, here's some backstory and let's introduce some of the players.
Yep. And but it was a lot of stuff to go through at this point. I mean, we basically watched like the Red Wedding in Game of Thrones.
Yep.
So yeah, I mean, that's what we've, and hearing these again after playing the game last year, it is bringing back a lot of memories. Soken did such an amazing job on this soundtrack. It's phenomenal. I mean, you hear a lot of just the amazing things that he brings to the music that he creates. I mean, we've been experiencing for the past 10 years in 14, and now he's gotten to expand and take over with 16, and it just shows that the future is really, really bright. And I think Uematsu recognizes the talent that's there.
Yeah. Soken did specifically note that of the various themes, if he had to pick a favorite, he would have to go with My Star.
It's a pretty theme, and that's Jill's theme, which we'll hear more of as we get more into Jill's story in the game, and it's really pretty. So
yeah.
Well, I hope that was fun. Like I said, we're gonna be going through this for the next 7 episodes after this. Such a good game. I hope you guys enjoy it. It also gives Seyrr a little bit of time to actually play Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, so we can maybe come up with our thoughts in the game and go from there. So, anything else to add, Seyrr?
Not a lot. Like, really good start. Like, there's a lot going on between all the different leitmotifs. Like, as usual, the music gets used for the storytelling, but you've also got some of those just like tension building type things. There's a lot going on with this one, so I'm looking forward to some of those later ones as well.
Yeah.
Especially given the number of things where we mentioned, yes, this is a call call forward to one that we haven't even gotten anywhere near yet.
Exactly, which is
there's
kind of
a lot to do here.
But with this type of storytelling, where the music plays this important of a part, I'm going to say, a lot of times I don't, hear every little bit, every nuance of a song, as I'm playing through the game, because it's that just important to how it makes me feel as I'm going through the game. So actually,
and sometimes there may just be a lot going on. There's often people speaking or sound effects of battle, lots of stuff going on. Some of this music is intended to be listened to as backing for other stuff. And so it's not until we do something like this that we really get the chance to like listen and tease out what's going on in it. Exactly.
Hearing it on its own really gives us the ability to appreciate, all of the little things that they put into these songs, and Soken, I've really noticed, is strong at doing things like that and telling the story with the music that he plays, that he creates.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just so great to see. So I'm looking forward to all of these discs in the soundtrack. But that's going to go ahead and do it for this episode, guys. If you liked what you heard, please make sure to like, subscribe, or follow us out on Apple Podcasts, YouTube, Spotify, or whatever your preferred podcatcher is. And if possible, leave us a rating or review. It helps other people find our show and lets us know how we're doing. If you really dig the show, you can consider subscribing to us here at twitch.tv/Phoenix Star Radio, where we try and do the show live every other Saturday night at now 9:30 p.m. Eastern, 6:30 p.m. Pacific. Moving forward, and we'll let you know if we end up changing that again. Once maybe Seyrr has a change in his schedule. I liked the earlier time, but I mean, I understand.
I did too,
because it gave us time to do more stuff afterwards. But no, I
100%.
But
I don't want to go changing around too much, just because I know it makes it difficult for our listeners. So we're going to do our best to minimize the impact to you as well while we're doing this.
Yes, so please bear with us. But for now, moving forward, we're going to be back to our old time of 9:30, 6:30, like we said at the beginning of the show. But we do this live every other Saturday night as we try. If you subscribe to us out on Twitch, you'll get access to our subscriber-only emotes and badges. Or you can go out to patreon.com/Phoenix Star Radio and support us like our benevolent overlord Aurori Fenrir or our resident slacker Nicknar. All proceeds go towards growing the show, cover things like hosting costs, allow us to improve and upgrade our equipment, as well as do fun things like contests and giveaways. We are 2 episodes away from 200, so maybe something fun will come up there. And that will be at the end of May now. Since I had to skip an episode, we'll have to push it back just a little bit more.
Just a touch.
Just a touch. But any kind of support, whether it's likes, emails, tweets, subs, follows, it's all greatly appreciated because we love working with you guys. We love hanging out with you guys. You're the reason why we do all this. If you want to catch up on our backlog of episodes, you can go directly out to our website, phoenixstarradio.com. There's also a lot of links to like our Discord, our Patreon, our Redbubble store. If you want to get merch, things like that, there's a lot of links there as well. And there's some other stories that we wrote in the past. Seyrr did do a bit of an epoch on Gilgamesh, which was kind of fun. I want to like to get him into more of those. So if you want to hear about those, you can email us, podcast@phoenixstarradio.com. Or if you want to, just say hi, if you have suggestions for the show, all that stuff like that. Or you can go out to our Facebook page at facebook.com/PhoenixStarRadio. We don't do as much there. I would say if you really want to be a part of the community, the best place to go is our Discord server, which the link is available out on PhoenixStarRadio.com. Shoutouts? What do you got, Seyrr?
Ooh. I mean, at this point, it's a shout out to caffeine for keeping me functional.
Woo!
There's been a lot going on. Shout out to all you crazy folks for coming back and joining us week after week.
Even when we don't come back every week.
Yeah.
Thank you for just understanding. When things like this happen for us and we end up having to miss a show. I mean, we've learned that we have to.
It always hurts.
But we have to make sure that we're taking care of ourselves first and foremost, so we can make sure that when we come back to you guys, we're doing the best we can.
Oh yeah.
So
we always want to be giving you that awesome stuff. We're glad that you understand it. It really helps out a lot, and it means a lot.
We're happy that you keep coming back, so we can keep doing this for you guys.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, I need to shout out Seyrr. Thank you so much for jumping in again and helping put on another awesome show. Helping discuss some really fun music, talk about some really interesting things in the news, especially today with the whole Xbox thing.
God,
that's crazy.
I can't believe we're still having this kind of thing happen.
It's like
it feels like on some level they keep making the same mistakes again and again.
Yeah, like last night you had mentioned the whole issue with Scunthorpe.
Ah, yes, that is a very famous issue with effectively automated moderation,
which is what's happening here too.
Yeah, I mean, while we don't know exactly how their moderation works, It sounds at least a little bit like there may be some amount of, okay, it's going and like, here's this forbidden word of like free or recruiting or things like that.
Yeah, we don't know what's triggering it yet, but the fact that they're still, yeah, it's a whole thing. But shout out to every. Anyway, continuing on the shout outs, because we talked about this earlier. Shout out to everybody
100%.
listening out on the podcast. We do appreciate you guys, and we hope that you can sometime join us live, because it is kind of fun when we can interact with you guys. Though after missing an episode, we do understand when people end up missing this, because also this is also the time of year when there's a lot of vacations and stuff like that going on too. It's like spring break time, so.
Oh, the schools are off next week. I might actually have time to get stuff done at work.
Good luck.
We had to suspend some kids.
Oh no.
Yeah.
All right. Well, again, thank you so much, everybody, for all of your support here. For my co-host, Seyrr, I am Klauss Nightbringer, wishing everybody a wonderful evening. Thank you so much. We'll catch you on the next one. Take care.
Phoenix Down Radio is a production of PhoenixDownRadio.com and Illusion Productions. Final Fantasy XIV and Eorzea are trademarks of Square Enix. In-game content for Phoenix Down Radio is the copyright of Square Enix. Open music for Phoenix Down Radio is provided by Guilty Gear Rock You. Check out the Metal Chocobo theme cover and many other music videos at youtube.com/Guilty Gear Rock You. Closing music for this episode is provided by Guitar Wanker 90. Please check out their full version of Matoya's Cave and other rock video game covers at youtube.com/Guitar Wanker 90. The views and opinions expressed in this episode are those of Phoenix Down Radio and its hosts and do not reflect the views of Square Enix.